Hi there folks, Skulkin140 back doing another review, but I'm not going to be talking about a toy or a transformer or anything like that today, no. Instead, I'm going to be doing a film review for a change. I haven't done one of these in a little while. The last film I reviewed was of Transformers Dark of the Moon, and we're all aware about how that film turned out, but we're not talking about that, no. I'm doing a film review on the recent film I saw, which was of Ridley Scott's Prometheus. I saw it on Friday, and I had a while to think about what I was going to say and think about this film in a lot of ways, and I thought I might as well just get in front of the camera and give my thoughts. And Prometheus. This is a weird film for me to talk about because in a lot of ways this film wasn't what I was hoping for, and it wasn't what I was expecting. And I'll try not to give away any spoilers for anyone who hasn't already seen it, but the film's been out for a while now, so I guess spoilers are kind of inevitable, but I won't try to give anything away for anyone who hasn't already seen it. But yeah, Prometheus. This is a weird film for me to talk about, because I wanted to really like this film a lot, because the way that this film was building up, and the way that this film was advertised, it looked, and, well, the film itself is kind of a prequel to Alien, but isn't, but it's set in the same universe, but it technically is, and it's hard for me to really talk about the film when when you see where it actually comes from. And I think, the more I think about this film, the less I like it, because I walked out of the cinema having very mutual feelings toward this film, but in the time it took me to catch the bus home and walk to my house and have the whole weekend to think about this film, I'm boiling now to the point where I just don't think it's a very good film at all. And that's a shame, because I wanted to like this film a lot, because the way that it looked, and the way that it was stylized, and the way that it was advertised as being a prequel to Alien. And I think the best way to really talk about this film is to talk about the other Alien films in general. I love the original Alien a lot. I think that film is fantastic as a science fiction film and as a horror film as well, because it has a good horror theme to it. And I think it's very well shot and very well edited and very well directed. I even liked Aliens as well, despite the fact that it kind of threw the horror side of the story out and instead became more of an action film. And I think it worked in a lot of ways. I liked Alien 3 despite the problems that it had, and it brought the Alien franchise to a close, I think. I liked it despite the problems. Alien Resurrection, I thought, was kind of crap in terms of its storytelling, because it was just abysmal as a film. The Alien vs Predator films, I'm not even going to talk about. Those films are kind of crap anyway, so those don't exist. Those are shit films in general. But yeah, Prometheus. I don't know. I wanted to like this film a lot. You have no idea how much I wanted to like this film, because the way that this film was building up as a distant, somewhat close prequel to the Alien franchise. Originally, I didn't think this film was going to be a prequel to Alien, because I thought from what Ridley Scott said that this was going to be an original science fiction film, but of course I was wrong. And it turns out that it is a prequel to Alien, but not in the same way like, oh, this is building up to what's eventually going to happen in the Alien films. No. It's building up to what will become Alien in some way or another. And I didn't like this film for a lot of different reasons, because there were many different things about this film that really pissed me off, in terms of its story, in terms of its characters, in terms of just everything that it missed the window of opportunity in trying to tell a good story. And the way that the story is played out, of course, the film's whole focus of the plot is that it revolves around humanity, and it revolves around where we come from, and what happens to us when we die, and where we originate from these aliens that we come in contact with. And so, okay, it has this really in-depth, interesting story, but it's not brought up again throughout the whole film. It's mentioned, these things are mentioned throughout the whole film, but it's never discussed upon. We never really take a step back to really discuss these ideas, to discuss how we are distantly related to these aliens, what happens to us when we die, and the whole DNA structure and everything like that. It's never really discussed. It's just mentioned. So this film is mentioning a much more interesting plot than we might have been seeing, but really, all that this film is just a film that relies heavily on action set pieces, on special effects, and just missing the opportunity to tell a really interesting, groundbreaking story. And I don't know why I thought this, but the initial impression I thought from this film was I really thought that they were really going to delve deep into this philosophical, deep story that revolved around the history of humanity and the history of where we come from and what happens to us when we die. And it doesn't get round to that. And I don't know, but I had a while to think about this film. But I don't want to seem like I'm hating this film in general, because I will get into the hate things later on. The best thing to talk about this film, in general, is to talk about the things I did like and the things I didn't like. And the things I did like. The one thing that I liked about this film a lot was the scope of how this film was shot and how it was made, and the atmosphere of how this film plays into this film, because this film is greatly used in terms of atmosphere, and atmosphere plays a huge part in the Alien film, or the two previous Alien films in general, Alien 1 and Alien and Aliens, because atmosphere plays a huge part in this film. And the atmosphere in this is well shot, and it's played to a great degree. And Ridley Scott knows how to use atmosphere in a lot of his films. When you see films like Gladiator and Blade Runner, and even films like Kingdom of Heaven, you see great atmosphere being used in those films to accompany the story that it's trying to tell. The design of some of the alien world and the aliens in general, and the designs of this film are mostly taken from a lot of discarded H.R. Geiger concept art, which, when you look at Geiger's art, you can see that it's mostly a lot of sexual organs, a lot of penis and tentacle, vagina sort of art, and a lot of throat fucking going on. When I say throat fucking, I'm trying to say with a little bit of subtlety, because when you look at Geiger's art, and when you see how it's designed, you can, there's one piece of his art that's taken from, I think it's, Necronomicon, where you see three skulls, two skulls on the end with two penises coming out at the end. That's what it is. And I thought that, that the alien ship and the way that the alien world was, designed was gorgeous in terms of its detail. A lot of Geiger's artwork is taken to great effect in this film, and it's used to the nth degree to a great extent. And the monsters and the aliens in this are well designed. A lot of good concept art. And it's played out very carefully in this film. And the special effects and the action set pieces were very well handled in this film. But again, that's what this film is relying upon. The story that it was trying to tell was just thrown out the window, and it withered and died before it had a chance to really take effect. And if this film had focused on the story as well as the action set pieces, you might have had a much more interesting film than what it turned out to be. And that's the real story of this film, is that this film was just full of so much wasted potential, in that I think that it could have been a much more interesting, much more in-depth, intelligent science fiction film than it turned out to be. And, excuse me, this film just felt like it wasn't trying in some way, and I don't know if I'm making any sense in this regard, because there was some good things about this film, like I just brought up. And the scope, the designs, the atmosphere, and the patience and looking at the atmosphere is played out to a great degree in this film. And since this film, of course, is setting up as a spiritual prequel to the Alien films, it really shows, and I think it plays out quite well. But if this film was talking a little bit more about how we are, what happens to us, what happens to humanity, and where we are descended from these creatures, which are basically the engineers, which, okay, you remember in the original Alien film, where you see this huge pipe organ microscope thing in the, I think it's the control room of the alien ship, which of course inside that microscope you see this sort of bug-like creature. That's the engineers, and in some way we are distantly related from the engineers, and the engineers are very well designed because of course they look like us, but the problem that I had with them though is that one of the characters asks the big question of how are we related to you and what happens to us when we die and blah 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 blah. But of course, this creature just came across as hostile. It went on a killing spree and it never stopped. And okay. I'm aware that if this character had somewhat of a hostile effect towards us, it would be hostile later on in the film, but not straight away, if that makes any sense. But I like the way that the engineer was designed. I want to get a toy of the engineer at some point, because I'm aware that NECA is planning on releasing figures from Prometheus at some point in the future, and I will try and get a figure of the engineer, because I like how the engineer is designed. But other than that, though, the engineer just came across as just a complete monster, and that's okay. But there aren't that many films. There are many films that play that effect now, in that you have monsters that just go on a killing spree and don't stop killing until they've killed everyone in sight. But I don't know. So those were kind of the things that I liked about this film. Now, the things I didn't like, we could be here for a while, but I'll try and give you the long and short of the things I didn't like. The characters. The characters in this film came across as completely unlikable, and you don't care for a minute whether any of these characters die. And in the original Alien, you had the characters that, even though you didn't really get a lot of chance to really develop them, you had these characters that were just mainly just space truckers, and excuse me, they just came across as like space truckers, and even though you didn't have a while to really know them, you didn't have a while to develop their characters, you at least didn't want to see them die. You at least cared whether some of them lived, and you cared whether some of them you cared whether they lived, and you didn't want to see these characters die. But whereas in this, these characters just come across as like complete come across as like complete idiots and complete assholes. Charlize Theron's character, who of course is a complete asshole in a lot of ways. Noomi Rapace's character, who I'm kind of a bit distant towards, I guess, is kind of a is sort of filling in the shoes of Sigourney Weaver's character Ellen Ripley from the original Alien films, but misses that in some way, because this whole character, of course, has a strong belief that we are descended from the alien engineers, and she has a strong belief in Christianity, and I don't really touch the whole religious subject or anything, but it's really hard to kind of discuss this sort of thing, because I don't really pay much attention to it, but you didn't really believe her character for a minute, and you didn't believe her at the end of the film. The only character that you really felt any real interest towards was Michael Fassbender's character David, who of course is an android filling in the same shoes that Ian Holm and Lance Henriksen did the previous Alien films as Ash and Bishop, and he has like the best lines in this whole film. And even though the android, of course, always comes across as a bit of an antagonist, he is more of an interesting character than any of the human characters in this film. Fuck the human race. This character is far more interesting, because I was looking at the film going, like, Fassbender's an interesting character. Fassbender's playing an interesting character, and I want to see where he goes at the end of this film. If the film was focused on this character, you might have had a much more interesting film, because he had like the best lines and he had the best motivation. But his whole chunk of the story isn't enough to fill the film. And, okay, what happens is, Fassbender's character, of course, comes across as a bit of an antagonist, in that he poisons Noomi Rapace's lover with this oily alien goo that has an effect later on. And it turns the lover of Noomi Rapace into, he goes through the same transformation as what it looked like he was going through the same transformation as what Jeff Goldblum, Seth Brundle's character in David Cronenberg's The Fly, in which you see pieces of flesh fall off, and you see teeth fall out, and you see hair fall out, and pieces of flesh just fall out, and you see him become something completely different. But instead, no, that's not used in this film. Instead, what it looks like is going to happen, Charlize Theron comes in and just burns the character like, with a flamethrower. It's like, and I know that's kind of a spoiler, but I just want to just throw that out there anyway, because that's one of my major nitpicks. And, oh, what is it? Another thing about the characters. Guy Pearce in this film, and Guy Pearce, of course, plays Peter Wayland, the founder of Wayland Industries. And, of course, he's playing an old character. And when you saw, young Peter Wayland, when you saw one of the trailers advertising Prometheus, that actually looked pretty interesting, because you have Peter Wayland, you had Guy Pearce playing this character who had a little bit of a god complex, and when you see Guy Pearce playing old Peter Wayland, the makeup is awful, and I don't know why, but when I first saw old Peter Wayland, it took me a while to figure out where I saw this makeup effect be used, and this is where I saw it from. The makeup of old Peter Wayland reminded me a lot of David Lopan from Big Trouble in Little China, the old David Lopan, in which you see James Hong playing David Lopan as an old, decrepit, withered old man. That's what it looks like in this, and the makeup just looks really bad. It's really bad, and part of me really thinks, why didn't they just get an old actor to just play this old character? Originally, from what I heard, is that they were going to get Max von Sydow to play this character, but it didn't happen. So instead we have a young actor playing an old actor, and okay, not sure how that plays effect, but it's a bit of a hit and miss. The makeup in this just looks really bad, and I just felt like Guy Pearce was miscast as this older version of Peter Wayland. If they had got Max von Sydow, I think you might have actually had a much more interesting look of the character. Having an old actor playing an old character, it would have actually worked. Because Guy Pearce's young Peter Wayland, it works. Guy Pearce's old Peter Wayland doesn't work. But that's a minor nitpick as well. Oh, what else? What else did I have a problem with? One of the moments in this film where I just almost jumped up and said fuck you to this film was, what is it? Noomi Rapace's character, Elizabeth, I think her name is, gets infected with this alien. And of course, it's writhing inside of her stomach, and of course she's saying, get it out, get it out, get it out. And this machine, that of course is used to, it's like a health machine, healthcare machine. Of course she has a cesarean, and when you see this this alien getting removed from her stomach, this alien fetus removed from her stomach, it's like, okay. But the way that it's handled, of course, she then has a cesarean, and of course her wound is stapled up, and somehow she's still able to walk. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think after you've had a cesarean that you would need the strength. You would need a great deal of time to recover the strength. You would need a great deal of time to recover your strength to walk. Whereas after she's had a cesarean and her wounds, in this case, stapled up, she's running around. She's dodging debris that's falling from the sky. She's walking. She's all right. It's like. This is one of those things that kind of really pissed me off, and it pissed a lot of people off. But it's... fuck. I don't know. I mean, fucking hell. There were so many things about this film that really pissed me off. It could have been a much more interesting film than it turned out to be. And there were moments where I just thought, like, really? You're really going with this now? And, you know, it's not that Ridley Scott's a bad director, it's just that he hasn't made a good film in a very long time. The last good film that he made was Kingdom of Heaven, and how many years ago was that? But yeah, this film... I wanted to like this film a lot. You have no idea how badly I wanted to like this film, but... if you want to like this film, I'm not holding it against you. If you want to like this film, go right ahead. But I think what this film was trying to do was it was trying to tell a really interesting story about humanity, about where we come from, about what happens to us when we die, and where we evolve from, and all that stuff. And where probably religion plays a part in this as well. But this film all that this film is just a big, loud, elaborate action set-piece film that could have been so much more than it is. There were some things that I liked about this film, but there were some things that I didn't like about it, and I feel disappointed with this film. I felt disappointed when I left the cinema. I felt disappointed when I had the whole weekend to think about this film. And, I don't know, part of me really thinks that this film could have been so much more if it focused on the story it was trying to tell, as well as the action set pieces that it had. But, fuck. I don't know. But there you go, that's my whole take on Prometheus. You know, here's the thing. I'm aware that this film, the way this film looks up at the end, is building up to a franchise, and more power to it. But I'm hoping at the end of the year, when this film gets released on DVD, that we're going to get a director's cut, because if this director's cut has a extended cuts as well, hopefully those extended cuts will focus on the story that this film was trying to tell, as well as the action set pieces that this film delivered, and hopefully you might have a better film. But this film, I was disappointed by it. That's what I'm trying to get across. I wanted to like this film a lot in terms of its scope and atmosphere and design, but ultimately this film, it let me down, is what I'm trying to say. But there you go. That's my whole take on Prometheus. Hope you liked it.